but their forces are defending themselves against militias from the DRC. Who is telling the truth is the question we are asking, but also we look at the peace talks that are taking place back in Qatar. So join us. It is going to be a beautiful show. And today, in a special way, we recognize women. It is Women Crush Wednesday. And as a woman, nothing makes me happier than giving some women their flowers. And today, I recognize women that are leading corporations, the CEOs, the managing directors, women at the helm of power in different organizations, in different corporations, women that have broken through the proverbial glass ceiling, and also women that are in positions that are usually dominated by men. Today, I crush on you. You're doing amazing, and I send you my love today from Good Morning Uganda. I wonder who Julie F. Nantaba is crushing on today. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Olive. Good morning to you who's watching us, and good morning, Robert. Now, this morning started with a drizzle, so it makes it a very good morning for me. That one that I'm crushing on today, a lady that I'm crushing on today, is Botswana's youngest minister, from holding the title of Miss World. Miss Lesego Chombo is now Botswana's youngest minister, and she is the Minister for Youth and Gender Affairs. Very inspiring young lady there, and I'm crushing on her this Wednesday.
And she is actually very inspiring. I follow her on social media. I actually followed her work way before she became a minister, and she's a force to reckon with. And as a young woman, Julie, don't you think that when you hear the title Minister of the Youth, what comes to your mind when you think of that person before you see them? Do you expect them to be a youth? Do you expect them to be like a minister for youth somewhere else? What comes to your mind?
Well, when you hear about the Minister for Youth and you're in Africa, it's not easy for you to think about someone as young as you are. Definitely, you think about someone who's... It's the truth. It's rare to think about someone as young as you are until you actually see it for yourself. That, oh, actually, the person representing my ideas, the person representing what I stand for as a youth, the person representing what I envision for my country actually relates with the day-to-day life that I go through, especially in regards to policies running and making policies governing the nation.
The youth.
Yes,
the youth affairs.
Yes. So for me, it's very inspiring to see former Miss World be the minister for young people, youth and gender affairs. It's very, very inspiring. And I know she has a voice because she speaks from a vantage of relating as opposed to speaking from a disconnect.
Exactly. And she's also a trained lawyer, if I am correct.
Yes.
Yes. Good morning, Robert. And why were you laughing when I asked if a minister for the youth in your mind is a youth or something else?
Well, you've just reminded me. One time I attended a disability conference, and the Minister for Disability surfaced. Now, one man asked Bert, who was crippled, asked Bert, why would you have a minister that has no disability? Maybe it's a hidden disability. Someone said. So when you were cracking that joke, it made me run back to that time. But also many countries, ministers for youth are actually far away from that bracket. And we look at maybe we look at the experience that they have been there, and they can guide you to where you've not yet gotten. So they understand your problems better. Maybe.
I
because,
like that one.
Yeah, because having a woman representative does not mean that she'll articulate and represent issues of women better. That is where, as the two of you crushed on the high end, allow me step down. Now for me, I want to crush on these ladies that work in the markets. Those ladies that you see on a tukutuku, full of goods, and she's up there. Those ladies that one time during COVID-19, the president had to direct the Ministry of Health to provide them with mosquito nets. Those ladies that hustle by 4, they're on the road, risky as it is for a woman to move, but they're there because they must ensure they have been able to get goods to sell. I crush on you ladies. And I've come to notice that many of these are actually single mothers even. So they're the heads of their families, they wake up very early, they work under tough situations. Now the rain has started, but all to ensure that they sustain the children that maybe some of us could have abandoned, but later will turn up definitely when it's time for graduation and introduction.
Amazing, amazing. Graduation and introduction. Well, I like how you're summing things up. But anyway, let's go back to the news or in the last 24 hours. Julie, I do understand that the governments of Democratic Republic of Congo and that of Rwanda, respectively, are meeting in Qatar for peace talks. Please tell us what is going on. Why are the peace talks happening in Qatar? But first of all, what's there?
Well, the Emir of Qatar is first and foremost mediating this too. In fact, if you look at the dailies, the picture is very, very interesting. The two African giants facing each other, and the Emir is in the middle of the two. But it's important to note that they are meeting for the very first time ever since the escalation of the M23 rebel attack in Congo. And they reaffirmed, the three presidents reaffirmed that they are willing to reach a ceasefire, but Rwanda definitely claims and states that its forces are acting in self-defense against Congo's army and militias hostile to Kigali, while Congo obviously is accusing Rwanda of backing the M23. But at least a diplomat informed one of the dailies where that story was reported and stated that first and foremost the meeting was informal, and the discussions took place, so it's still taking place, and they are willing to continue to find lasting peace solutions for the conflict in Congo, where Rwanda is also involved, and Qatar is also in a season of being a mediator for peace. For example, it's helping US and Egypt with Israel-Gaza ceasefire. And so it's really acting in that regard. But also I understand wars like this, I mean, Uganda is neighboring countries at that are affected. You talk about the refugee conversation, Uganda being one of the biggest hosts for refugees in the world. Statistics are about what, 7 million?
We are right now, we are currently hosting about 1.5 million refugees from the countries of South Sudan, DRC. We don't have many Rwandan refugees anymore.
Now,
we used to. Many of them went back to Rwanda. But yes, we are a refugee hosting country for over 1.5 million people. And with the M23 taking down two of the largest cities in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, it has, I believe that the numbers could actually have changed over the last few weeks. Yes. Now, Robert, looking at what is happening in DRC, what would you say, why, first of all, this is an East African issue. We have the East African community, and yet Qatar is mediating these peace talks.
Well, thank you, Olive. This war is kind of interesting because you find that we had what we called the Nairobi peace talks. Now, these were held in Nairobi under the chairmanship of the East African community, who by then was the president of Kenya. Now, these had also issues. You had the Rwanda talks before, but recently, in a fortnight, we're supposed to have ministers in the South Africa Development Committee, that is the SADC, and ministers under the East African community meet. Now, these were supposed to meet and look at a report that was combined by the various chiefs of defense forces to see how best we can have peace in this area, release of hostilities, but also ensure that humanitarian aid is given. But these have been tampered with by the challenge of finances. If you remember I think it was last month, when the first Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for East African Affairs, Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, came out and said that we are faced with a challenge of funding of the East African community for these activities. Each country is supposed to give about 25 billion shillings if converted to Uganda, but you find that only about 4 countries are honoring this. So money to run some of these activities is not that very available. So we are still constrained by challenges, but also the fact that we must call a spade and not a spoon. You find that also the president of DRC is not that very conversant with some of the East African countries being at the lead of this, because he feels some may also have a silent hand in there. That's why at one time our forces, the East African Community Forces, he said pack and go, and brought in SADC forces.
Okay, interesting. Why do you say that he's not conversant? I mean, is he a novice at this political thing?
Well, when you talk about one of the countries now, you have Rwanda also being suspected or allegedly being at the back of the March 23 rebel group. But also you find that he feels maybe also some of these countries, one is in bed with the other. And they may not really give justice. But what is important is to ensure that we have peace in the DRC and the influx of refugees. We've held enough of refugees as Uganda. We've been there for Congo. We've been there for Sudan. It is too much. It's stressing, it's straining our resources, given also that people have in our country. Look at how big of our land has gone into these settlements. So much.
I hear your concerns, Robert. Now, we will be following the peace talks that are going on in Qatar between Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo, and we will be able to bring you the details regarding the same. Congo accuses Rwanda of sending arms and Rwandan troops to support the rebels in Democratic Republic of Congo, whose offensive has plunged Eastern Congo into its worst conflict in decades. However, Rwanda said that its forces are acting in self-defense against Congo's army and militias hostile to Kigali. Now, with that being said, we get into our local news. And later on, Nigeria and Kenya among nations running out of HIV drugs. This, according to the World Health Organization. More on that story later on, but for now, we get into the local news.
Well, we begin with President Yoweri Museveni, who is on the Wealth Creation and Parish Development Tour in Bunyoro. Now, President Yoweri Museveni kicked off a 4-day wealth creation tour of Bunyoro sub-region by checking on the parish development model successful beneficiaries in the district of Bulisa, Hoima, and Kikuwe. In Bunyoro, the president was accompanied by the Vice President Jessica Alupo, Prime Minister Robert Nabanja, and members of cabinet. In Bulisa district, the Wealth Creation Crusade was convened at Tumusime Titus's home. Titus, a resident of Butiaba sub-county, is a parish development model beneficiary who received 1 million shillings in 2023, according to the leaders. Titus is among the many successful PDM beneficiaries in Bulisa district. The president's visit in Bunyoro is an opportunity to seek his attention towards some community challenges in Hoima district. David Irumba hosted the president. Irumba is an established role model farmer whose expertise is in poultry and has not only earned himself a name but also money as well. On his first day of Bunyoro tour, President Museveni also visited Kikuwe district to assess the progress of parish development model program. Now to politics. The Forum for Democratic Change Party has poked holes in the recent concluded Kawempe North by-election. In a press conference in Kampala, FDC President Patrick Oboy Amriat wants the Electoral Commission to account for the state of the by-election. This follows NRM Party's decision to petition the results in court after the National Unity Platform Party candidate Elias Nalukola was announced winner. However, in an exclusive interview, the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Chris Baryomonsi, defended the Electoral Commission on allegations of mishandling the election. Amriat condemns the brutal actions of the security agencies, including JAT and the UPDF, saying they undermined democracy. However, FDC doubts its results of their candidate, Sadat Muchibi, who collected 239 votes only, making him fifth in the race won by the NUP candidate Elias Nalukola. Despite concerns, the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomonsi, defended the Electoral Commission on allegations of mishandling the election. National Water and Sewerage Corporation has warned residents of a 33-hour water shutdown that will affect parts of West Kampala. The areas include Namasuba, Ndeje, Chengera, and Buddo, as the corporation works addresses a pipe leakage at Gaba water production plant. Residents are advised to store water ahead of the shutdown, which begins which began at midnight. A 33-hour water shutdown will affect areas of West Kampala. The Namasova line will be shut down, and this will help facilitate repairs and leakages in this area. The head of public service and secretary to the cabinet, Lucy Nachobe, has challenged permanent secretaries to ensure that the priorities of their entities align with the broader objective of government, like the rationalization Vision 2024. Nachobe was officiating at the inauguration launch of the Public Service Leadership Excellency Program in Kampala. All permanent secretaries are attending a 3-day-long Public Service Leadership Excellency Training organized by the Ministry of Public Service, Office of the President, the Civil Service College in collaboration with Calendar Institute of Governance. Officiating at the event, the head of Public Service and Secretary of Cabinet, Lucy Nachobe, challenged permanent secretaries to adopt global best practices to enhance coordination and improve service delivery in Uganda's public sector. The Managing Director, Strategy and Research, Calendar Institute of Governance, Kenneth Sim, is optimistic that the training will help permanent secretaries to enhance skills in public service management. However, they are asked to embrace strategies of curbing corruption, a major hindrance to better service delivery. Public service is key in provision of essential services to the people and ensuring implementation of government policies. Now, that brings us to the end of our local stories.
Well, thank you so much, Robert. Now, getting into the international news, President Vladimir Putin has rejected an immediate and full ceasefire in Ukraine, agreeing only to halt attacks on energy infrastructure following a call with the U.S. President Donald Trump. The Russian leader declined to sign up to the comprehensive month-long ceasefire that Trump's team recently worked out with Ukrainians in Saudi Arabia. He said a comprehensive truce could only work if foreign military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine came to an end. Ukraine's European allies have previously rejected such conditions. U.S. talks on Ukraine are due to continue on Sunday in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, the U.S. envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, said. In the grinding 3-year war, Russia has recently been taking back territory in its Kursk region that was occupied by a Ukrainian incursion 6 months ago. The results of Tuesday's Trump-Putin call amount to a retreat in the U.S. position from where it stood a week ago, although the two leaders did agree that further peace talks would take place immediately in the Middle East. When a U.S. delegation met Ukrainian counterparts in Jeddah last Tuesday, they convinced Kyiv to agree to their proposal for an immediate 30-day ceasefire across land, air, and sea. Moving on, after 9 months in space, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams have finally arrived back on Earth. Their SpaceX capsule made a fast and fiery re-entry through the Earth's atmosphere before 4 parachutes opened to take them to a gentle splashdown off the coast of Florida. A pod of dolphins circled the craft. After a recovery ship lifted it off the water, the astronauts beamed and waved as they were helped out of the hatch, along with fellow crew members, astronaut Nick Hague and cosmonaut Alexander Gabanov. The crew's doing great, Steve Stitch, manager NASA's Commercial Crew Program, said at a news conference. It brings to an end a mission that was supposed to last for just 8 days. It was dramatically extended after the spacecraft Butch and Suni had used to travel to the International Space Station suffered technical problems. It is awesome to have crew 9 home. Just a beautiful landing, said Joel Montalbano, Deputy Associate Administrator, NASA's Space Operations Mission Directorate. Thanking the astronauts for their resilience and flexibility, he said SpaceX had been a great partner. The journey home took 17 hours. The astronauts were helped on the stretcher, which is a standard practice after spending so long in the weightless environment. Now coming back to Africa, 8 countries, 6 of them in Africa, including Nigeria, Kenya and Lesotho, could soon run out of HIV drugs following the U.S. government's recent decision to pause foreign aid, the UN World Health Organization said. U.S. President Donald Trump announced the freeze on his first day in office in January as part of a review into government spending. Disruptions to HIV programs could undo 20 years of progress, the World Health Organization chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus warned. It could also lead to more than 10 million additional cases of HIV and 3 million HIV-related deaths, he added, noting this was more than triple the number of deaths last year. Nigeria, Kenya, Lesotho, South Sudan, Burkina Faso and Mali, as well as Haiti and Ukraine, would run out of life-saving antiretroviral medicines, or also known as ARVs, in the coming months, Dr. Tedros said at a press conference on Monday. Trump's executive order paused foreign aid support for an initial duration of 90 days, in line with his America First foreign policy. It has affected health programs around the world, leaving shipments of critical medical supplies, including HIV drugs, greatly hampered. The majority of the U.S. Agency for International Development's USAID programs have since been terminated. Despite a waiver issued in February for the U.S. groundbreaking HIV program, its work has severely been impacted. Well, that does it for our international news. Now let's get into the local news, the press review.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Olive. And in the press review, starting with the New Vision, row erupts over Umeme buyout. And 725 billion Uganda shillings approved by MPs, not final, says Minister Nankabirwa. But also still in the New Vision, Museveni rallies Bunyoro to embrace fish farming. And President Yoweri Museveni addressing residents of Chimbugu village in Kabwoya sub-county, Chikube district, as he started his 3-day assessment tour of the parish development model in Bunyoro sub-region. Still in the New Vision, Minister Mayanja intervenes in Sango Bay land dispute. And there is a series on the Kanungu massacre, what eyewitnesses say, that is in the New Vision. But still in the New Vision, court holds Lobowa Hospital, NSSF projects. And in the crime story, gospel singer arrested over child sacrifice. Very interesting story, and sad at that. But looking at the Daily Monitor, the coffee outfit gulping our taxes, public money, private pockets. Several months after Parliament gave money to Inspire Africa Coffee, an entity owned by a private investor, Mr. Nelson Tugume, the government has continued to pump money into a venture that it has no shares in, yet to safeguard taxpayers' money. And the latest 67 billion payout has now sparked a public outcry. That is in the Daily Monitor. And still in the Daily Monitor, mother of 40 shines in A-level exams. And U.S. astronauts back home after 9 months in space. Still in the Daily Monitor, the lizard wonders there must be a model farmer behind it, and that is behind the coffee outfit. But also how Mubaje secured another term, that's in the Daily Monitor, and why 13 women want to unseat Noop in Luwero. That is in the Daily Monitor. And lastly, in the Daily Monitor, remaining in the city streets will affect business. But let's look at what is in the Citizen. Business captains a bit despite global upheavals. The vast majority of business leaders in Tanzania remain confident about the country's economic prospects despite current global uncertainties. And this is according to a new report. But also still in the Citizen, Samia marks 4 years in office, and what launch of $50 million data center means. That is in the Citizen, and innovation hubs offer hope to jobless youth. And lastly, in the Citizen, Angela and Patricia, advocates of gender parity empowerment. Finally, in the Daily Nation, Mexican cartel run drugs lab in Kenya. A new report by the United States Department of State has revealed that a meth or crystal meth production lab linked to a dangerous Mexican cartel had been in operation in Namanga until September last year, serving as a major indictment of the country's fight against narcotics, even as international criminal organizations continue to operate in plain sight. That is in the Daily Nation. But still in the Daily Nation, Gachagua's allies told to vacate their fancy offices. And puzzles as State House deletes, then restores tender files on portal. That is in the Daily Nation. And a crime there, I was in a Ghanaian jail with Nduta due to forced drug trafficking. That is a story in the Daily Nation. And lastly, how Kericho County employee registered own mobile number to collect fees. And that wraps up what we have in the dailies this morning.
Wow, that's interesting.
I know.
You can't fake these things. But anyway, we'll take a short break. We will leave you with an inspiration song for the day. It's called Forever from Jackie and Omale. Enjoy. When we come back, we're speaking matters education.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Flip the music.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It is also a day when we crash on women. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I'm your host today with Tirabo.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It is also a day when we crash on women. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I'm your host today with Tirabo.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It is also a day when we crash on women. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I'm your host today with Tirabo.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It is also a day when we crash on women. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I'm your host today with Tirabo.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It is also a day when we crash on women. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I'm your host today with Tirabo.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by.
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, the state of Uganda's National Learning Assessment Report by Uwezo Uganda has raised serious concerns about the quality of education in the country. Instead of improving, learning outcomes have stagnated or declined in most areas, with shocking statistics indicating that 23% of primary 7 pupils are unable to read. Now, imagine we have over, this report by Uwezo was based on over 21,000 pupils that were, questioned during the research, and this is the number that came out. And they also go ahead to say that this report is not only, these outcomes are not only limited to primary pupils, but also some in secondary school, meaning we have stagnated somewhere. So today we delve into this conversation, and because this report has arose critical questions about the effectiveness of our education system, but also the factors contributing to this decline, and what can be done, what solutions can be found so that we come to the bottom of this problem. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, with Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono and Julie F. Nantaba Mosisi. Now, Julie, looking at the report, first of all, help us understand effectively, deeply, to the core, what is in the report? What are the major highlights of this report?
Well, thank you, Olive. Now, the major highlights are very alarming, given that English is one of, the national languages or used in Uganda, and for some reason, everyone is expected to know how to speak English. And I've noticed, at least as a culture, that even if someone cannot verbally articulate themselves in English, at least it's rare to find someone typing a WhatsApp message in their local dialect. It's always in English for some reason. That means in one way or the other, there's a degree of attending school to learn a word or two in English. But looking at the statistics, very alarming statistics at that, P3 pupils who could read and comprehend a P2 level English and local language story, as of 2024 were 2 out of 10 pupils. Yeah, and by 2021, it was just 1 out of 10 pupils. That is P3, just for P3. And then from P3 to P7, pupils who could read and comprehend a P2 level story in a local language were just 2 out of 10 as of 2024 and 3 out of 10 as of 2021. But let's look at P7 pupils who could read and comprehend a P2 level story in a local language. As of 2024, it was 51.1%, having reduced from 68% in the year 2021. Now, from P3 to P7, pupils who could read and comprehend a P2 level English story and do tasks at that involving all the 4 arithmetic operations, 2 out of 10 pupils as of 2024. And 2021, it was just 3 out of 10. That is a reduction. Now, looking at pupils, P7 pupils who had not yet achieved a P2 level competence in English, it was a whole 23.3% in 2024, having increased from 11.3% in 2021. I don't know what you would think about that, but it scares me as a citizen of Uganda. It scares me that by the time a pupil is in P7, they cannot comprehend a statement or a story in English, and this is reducing. 2021 was 11.3%. 2024, which is just last year, we're just 3 months into the new year, it's at a whole 23.2%.
Wow.
I don't know what that paints for you, especially as people who communicate in English every day when we come to speak to the nation of Uganda.
Yeah, there is the English, then there is the inability to entirely read. You're not reading the local dialect, and you're also not reading English, because reading is part and parcel of pretty much everything we do.
True.
Even when you can't speak English, you should be able to read something, even if you work in the market. Lately, we are in the habit of sending a list of what we need with the border guy to go to the market and purchase these, groceries. And if the vendor can't read, even if you've written amatoke, enyanya, or butungulu, it is
and
concerning.
they can't work out the letters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now for pupils not to be in position to read in English, which is the language of instruction, it is also sad and scary, because what are they then doing if they're in P7, a class that transitioned them to to secondary school, and they cannot read? It is quite concerning. So, Robert, it's upon this background that I ask, in your perspective, what do you say are the major factors contributing to the stagnation or regression in learning outcomes?
Well, thank you, Olive. And of course, our viewer, this is not good news at all when you look at these statistics, because English is our official, we may not have a national language per se, but at least it is our official language of communication as a country. That's why you find in the August House we are using English. On any platforms we are using English.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to education, basically it is the English language that runs the education system of this country. Now, failure to be able to read means you can't even know what they're asking you. Neither can you reply. So that means you're just going to fail. And I remember when UPE was coming on board, one of the things that were fronted was at least let every child born in Uganda be able to read and write. Because those that have lived for some time, you remember there were days when a letter would be written to someone. Mobile phones were not that common. A letter would be written to someone, then that someone would hold that letter and go to somebody to read for them. Olive, you must have witnessed some of these days.
Yes, even writing for people.
Even writing for people.
Yes.
Now, this is where the problem comes. And we want to see why. First and foremost, we must understand that English language or reading, our government has not invested in pre-primary. We do not have pre-primary schools owned by government. These are private. And their standards, government is not following them so much. Because let's be honest, by the time a child, I'll use the common terms used, not kinder, middle, what I'll say that by the time a child goes to baby, it's for socialization. Now, a child goes to middle class, they're introduced to basic reading and counting, colors and all that. Top class, a child is able to read. Because the foundation of any child matters. You can't teach reading in P3 and being able to comprehend. It has to be now. Government has not invested in this very critical stage. Neither has the monitoring been serious. Here where anyone can start a kindergarten. Just go then later get a license. There is a way, because according to government, as long as a child clocks 6 years, this child is supposed to be in P1. And it's a law.
That's true.
When you look at our education, 6 years supposed to be in P1. And it is also clear you're not supposed to examine this person to recruit them or to give them a vacancy in your school, but they're supposed to join P1. Now, the situation has also been worsened, where when we go to primary, universal primary education, there's no rebounding. That if Judy Nantaba, before she became a Musisi in school, did not understand reading or master reading, in universal education, Judy will go through. Now, what are you going through? If you've not understood one stage and you're being promoted, it is universal promotion. That's also another challenge we have. 2, reading and the English language, much as it is being taught, but it comes through the teacher and the students socializing as well. Now remember, this is a foreign language that we're talking about. Now, because these skills of socialization are not examinable, given also the class that teachers have. You see, we are doing very bad when it comes to teacher-student ratio.
That's right, especially in public schools.
Yes, so a teacher has a very big class. One time I was in northern Uganda, I met a shock of my life, and I learned to appreciate certain things. I went to a class where P5 was facing this side and P4 was facing this side. Can you get a, do you click what I'm saying? It's the same room like this studio. Now P4 faces this side and P6 is this side. I was like, how do the children concentrate? I went to another one where, you know, plywood is what separates, but whatever is being said there also comes here. And the classes had a lot of numbers. So how do you expect that teacher to follow up? You get it? To be able to know that Olive can read and write. You have 150 students. You're teaching primary 1 up to primary 7, if you're an English teacher. For heaven's sake, that could be about 700 children. You need to assess. Robert, come here. Read for me this. You get it? Then go to Robert and say, this is how we add up letters. This is, Robert, can Robert speak good English? Some of the things of socialization were debates in school. I don't know if you people, and I know our viewer, if you went to what we call schools, you had debating clubs, where you would come up and the teacher would access. But the problem, these are not examinable. And now our schools are focusing on what is being examinable. Because I'll look at how many first grades did you get? Leave alone the new grading. It's not yet for the lower primary. It's not yet for primary.
But schools are adjusting to complement.
So schools are rushing at what is going to be examinable.
Yes.
Issues like debating and all these, a teacher coming and socializing. Then also...
Thank you. Let me just interject a bit, Robert. Thank you for bringing up issues like debate. I will personally tell you, debating club is one of the avenues that taught me to speak, to learn to be confident, okay? And I find that today, these clubs have been commercialized, that for your child to be a part of the debate club, then you must pay. Then the football we used to play, you must pay for it. Like everything we used to do for free as part of our co-curricular activities.
I pay for
MDD, I was in the school choir, I loved to act. It was free. But now you look at all of these, we have to pay for them. Now, if a parent can find school fees, which is an arm and a leg, literally, and then you're telling them, pay for MDD, pay for scouts. Scouts we've always paid. Pay for scouts, then pay for football, then pay for debate, pay for math classes. So at the end of the day, do you think that the commercialization of certain aspects of education, the co-curricular activities that maybe to a degree made us who we are today, has also affected and negatively impacted our children and their learning outcomes?
Olive, I want to agree with you 100++. Now, also coupled with lack of teaching material. We all remember the reading books. At every class we had books you were reading.
Peter and was it Nambi and Musisi? Those were the Uganda books.
So we had these books that we were reading.
Yes.
Now, when you go to universal primary or government-aided schools, very few have what we call libraries. There could be a similarity. Not to say that government has not tried, but you see it's just a drop in the ocean no matter how much they try. So a child to learn reading, let's be very honest, there are books. For example, today, they will tell you English, is it English 1 for primary 1 now?
Literacy 1 and 2.
Yeah, I love mothers. Now she has these books better. For us, she will provide, but she even knows the right whatever, literacy and all that. So these books, for the teachers to use, you know, teaching requires incentives, not just good pay, housing, but what is the teacher using to teach reading? What is the teacher using to teach English? You know, or are you just going to come and say, follow, say this after me, this? So teaching material are also a problem. Then finally on this, quality of teachers. You people and our viewer watching us, I want you to move outside Kampala. How many teachers, primary teachers, are fluent in the English language? I don't know if you interacted with some of them. They will tell you this is a primary teacher. I used to do a bit of education interviews, but you would sit down and ask, excuse me, I just inquire, are you a teacher?
But you know,
because
Robert,
you can only give what you have.
That's true. You can only give what you have.
If you don't have, then you can't give. If you're not articulate, you even the teacher have challenge. I remember sometime back there was a research that was carried out on some of the teachers, and I noticed that some of them don't have what to give, yet they have to give. So those are some of the challenges.
Okay, Julie, you had something?
Yes, actually, Robert states something in regards to the government investing in into these schools, especially UPE, and it reminds me of the 24th edition report by Ministry of Finance on the economic update that stated that investment in early childhood development could significantly shape the labor market in the outcomes for Uganda. And it brings me to a point of when it comes to early childhood development, does anyone even take time to understand that the children that we push into these schools, for nursery school, for example, is it a space that takes time to study and understand that particular child if they have a reading and writing disability so that they are helped better? If someone suffers from dyslexia, many people might not even be aware, his or her teachers might not be aware that this child suffers from dyslexia.
Because we don't have...
If you are not aware of those that have no disability, their abilities, you know, you can't want to take a cup of coffee as good as what I'm taking, local coffee.
That's so true.
When you can't afford water.
Yes. But
so if you can't look at
Let Julie finish. Yes, Julie.
from your submission, I got to also think about the parents. Yes, we have the problem, and it's living in our midst. But what if we also thought of a solution as we rally towards the general solution of it being wiped away? Don't you think the parents are not also playing a role?
Before we go to the parents, Julie, let's look at what studies have shown. And I will still use a personal story. My first introduction to reading was local stories.
Yes.
The church did play a role because they used to give us all these books to read, but they were in Uganda. So my first introduction to reading was Uganda, was Bukede newspapers at the time. I read lots and lots of newspapers in Uganda before I could start reading English. Yes, and research shows that learning to read is to read in a child's first language. Let's say if a child's first language is Runyankole, Luganda, is it called Ateso, Lugisu, all those languages, whatever your local language is. If a child learns to read first in their mother tongue, then it makes it easier for them to later take on a second language like English. So coming to you, Julie, do you think, based on the research, that because these subjects are not they are not, first of all, examinable. We don't examine, let's say at P7, we don't examine Luganda, Runyankole, Rusoga, we do not. And do you think because of this, our children are struggling to read in the English language? Because this report shows that 2 in every 10 children that were sampled, or rather in every 10 children that were sampled, 3 could only read and understand a primary 2 story in a local language. So do you think that because these languages have not been given much focus, much advantage in our school system, that it is in a in the long term actually impacting the children's learning outcomes or reading outcomes when it comes to English?
Now, I understand that the Ministry of Education pushes for schools to teach children in the local dialect, P1 to P3.
Is it mandatory? Because you could be saying they push, but when it is that these things of, you remember how in the lockdown the president would tell financial institutions, be kind. Do not come for, to collect the loans. Yes. Some financial institutions listened and they didn't. Others went ahead to collect their interest, despite knowing that their people were not working, businesses were closed. So my question is the ministry making it mandatory, or they're just saying, you should also include
So I think now that's where the problem is. While it's on paper, I don't think it's implemented in schools.
Well, it was launched, and it is supposed to be implemented, but the challenge you find is that also in some areas it is hard to implement with the coming in of so many people. That is why some schools were pushing out that and saying, but you see, now for our particular area, which language can we front? Which language? If you're saying a school in Acholi Porters, now you can't use Acholi because you're not in that particular region. But you find that you have Acholi is more.
Yes.
So are you going to say, let's use the Luganda?
And Robert,
making it complicated.
And Robert and even Julie, I would like to hear your thoughts on this, both of you. If a school is in Acholi land and it has a few Bagandas and a few Banyankoles therein, but majority are Acholis, are we going to ignore the majority to protect?
Now, what Robert actually addressed was the fact of being the majority in a small space that is not your region. So actually quarters could be a small location in Kampala here. Shall it be possible for you to implement teaching Luganda to people who are mostly actually but have a mixture?
And also some schools argued why they were against that. They said that we have schools where the children there have nothing to do with their local language. For example, the urban schools, you find a person, Olive is lucky, but you find a person that they are very fluent in English, they can read, they can comprehend, but they can't read their mother tongue. So they were saying that this is good, but at the end of the day, it is not what finally the exams are going to come up with. Because they were giving those case studies that you have people in urban centers, a person even finishes senior 4, and if you give them a Uganda newspaper, you will see them join words.
Robert,
But at the end of the day,
Robert,
so
let me
it
draw
was
your
kind
attention
of
to countries like South Korea, where having some army training at some point before you are, I think, 25 or 27 is mandatory. It doesn't matter who you are, which family you come from. There is this K-pop group that had to actually at some point halt their concerts and tours around the world because they had to do something that was mandatory. Why am I bringing this as an example? Even Nigeria has that. After university, there is that youth training they do, which is mandatory. So why am I bringing these examples? If the ministry made it mandatory for, let's say, schools in a region, if you're in Western Uganda, you teach this language. If you're in Eastern Uganda, no matter whether you have Indians or what in your as your students, you teach a local language. If they made it mandatory, would it even matter that in your family you don't speak the language? And has it ever killed anyone for a child to speak more than one language?
Children's brains can adjust. I've seen that happen. Children can learn at their age, the lower, from the age of 3, I must say, a child has the capacity to learn so many languages.
Actually, from 0.
Yes, but I also think it's with the school policies, because when Monica...
But the problem goes back to what, at the end of the day, are you examining? You see, with commercialization of education, Olive, school owners have left out what you would think, because a child, I'm told, I'm not a teacher, I've never done any teacher training, but I'm told that a child better understands something when you speak or tell it to them in their local language.
Because many people think in their local language. Yes.
But the challenge we are facing today is that as long as something is not examinable, because it is how your school performs that you're going to get students or pupils. Now, one time I was speaking to a school head and I said, how do you have a school where there is no playground? You know, a person, the head teacher asked me, does UNEB examine sports?
But also...
so how do you, the person is going to tell you, why would we teach our children from P1 to P3 a language that I know at P7, my entry point, my marketing point, my strength? This is not going to be asked.
Well, I have comments coming through, and this first one is from Cricket Derek Gagamel from Makinde Luafu. He says, good morning, Olive, Robert and Julie. If that research is right, then the education sector has a big role to play. I partly doubt those statistics because in this era, children know how to respond to some simple words in English, like how are you, how old are you, what's your name, before they join school. Derek, what you're ignoring is that they listen and can answer. In Uganda we say bamanyi molulye mmere or sabe mmere, but they cannot read. These are children in P7. These are children in P7. Yes, these are children in P7 that cannot read a P2 level story in either Luganda or local language or in English. But he goes on to say, and they learn those from their parents and society. So by the time this child is taken to school, they will easily catch up with this language. So I see it next to impossible for children to reach primary 7 level when they can't speak English. The question is, are all the children coming from homes where their parents can actually speak the language or can read and write? Secondly, our children are living in a privileged era whereby even they can learn or be taught some words on Google. I agree some children might have their personal weaknesses, but the fact that the numbers are increasing more so in this privileged generation, then we are not safe at all. Derek, you're looking at one demographic, unfortunately. And Leah says, learning is for parents, teachers, and students. A lay leader was teaching reading and writing in church. We mistake mother's tongue for tribe. I believe a mother tongue is the language used at home. So when you talk of tribe tongues, even the owners cannot spell in those languages. How can they teach? Since it is free education, parents can stop children to go to school any day, they don't follow up. Well, thank you so much, Leah and Derek, for your views. And this is where our conversation will also end. Thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Uganda. The show does continue. Up next is Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a SACCO, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome back from our previous episode. We're still taking you to Dolwe Island. The first episode was basically to take you about the background and the history of Dolwe Island. But we promised that we'll take you to the top and get to know what is so much inside these stones. Now we're just at the top and I'm still with Mr. Gabriel. And when you look at the backdrop, there's just more beautiful and scenic views, and it's still stones and so much beautiful scenery. He's still going to tell us what is more to be told about these stones. Yes, Mr. Gabriel.
Yes.
Behind us is a very beautiful scenic view of other stones. What is there to tell about these stones?
Basically, the stones that has a lot of the theories. We have those who said that it was in form of the volcanicity. We have those who say that even, when there's a downwarping of the formation of this lake here, those the low or the weak surface sunk down, and then this also raised up. There are also others who tend to bring the theory of glaciation, but I doubt, because when you talk about glaciation, it means that it was all in water. But again, the water just came in because the land was bigger than the water, yeah, according to the geomorphology of the Wegener's theory and whatever. However, it is so amazing, and that is the way we call that the natural heritage. Yes, the beauty, the way they are arranged. And also it has the connection, as I told you, the spiritual setting. We have the gongs here, we have the caves, and even our people used. And when during that time when there was a graduated tax, people would also run and then come and hide in these places here. It was so forested and indeed habitat here. Yeah, and that is it that we have on this, which is Kandege, on the western part of this island, because we have the western and then the eastern. This is one of it that has the beauty of this island, and that welcomes you when you're going to dock. You see a plane like or a bird like rock there that we call Kandege.
Okay, we're going to go with you to Kandege, and he gives us the history about that particular rock. Yes, so Mr. Gabriel earlier told us Kandege means aeroplane. Please tell us where that originates from.
Yes, as I told you, this place here, the rock here looks like a plane or a bird, the bird that has landed. But now it signifies the Bantu dialect, hence naming this the rock Kandege. And Kandege, as we have this the Bantu that moved, those that occupied the islands for fishing. Now, they were mixed up, and as you know, the Bantu is where they also got the Kiswahili formation. Yes, and when they reached this area here, they did saw a rock, and because they were, actually the island was forested with a lot of rocks. Now, for identity, they would say, hey, are you going to that place of Kandege where there is a rock like the plane? Now, they used to move like that. And these areas, actually the first places that people inhabited here, they were named after the rocks. We have Mwango was named after the rock. We have Kandege and even Gorofa, we shall reach there. Now, this is one of them. And now, it would give a signal. And when people would come, because there was no landing, it was forested, now this one would show them for easy identification. The Kandege, meaning the plane. And that is why the whole of this place here around, the name emanated from this rock here, the Kandege zone, the Kandege village. That we have also now Nyalo that came out of the Kandege. Now when you talk about Kandege, automatically know you're going to come at the village of Kandege, the fishing center or ground of Kandege. However, that emanated from this rock here. That's why I say that on this island here, whoever has no connection with the rocks, you know that he is a person who came in recently in 21st century. But like us, who are the natives, whoever is on this island is connected with the rock. Now, the oldest villages of this island, they are named out of the rocks.
That is all about Kandege, but don't forget that we have more other stones to explore. He mentioned Golofa, and that is where we'll be heading. Don't forget to stick with us as we continue to explore these beautiful rocks on Dolwe Island.
Well, welcome back from JMU Tourism Express. Good morning, Uganda, and it's time for JMU Business. And starting with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, they have signed a 40 billion Uganda shillings grant agreement with the European Union. the French development agency AFD to boost rural electrification. This initiative supports government's efforts to expand last-mile power connections for underserved communities, and the funds managed by AFD and implemented through MEMD's Rural Electrification Department will ensure access to sustainable and affordable electricity. The last mile electrification project launched in Mpigi district will connect 40,000 households, benefiting approximately 200 people. And this project aligns with Uganda's Vision 2040 and the National Electrification Strategy, reinforcing the country's goal of 100% electricity access. Electricity is vital for social and economic development for rural areas that still lack reliable and affordable power. And looking at matters earth science, State Minister for Mineral Development Fiona Nyamtoro has called for faster tracking of Earth Scientists Registration Bill 2024 to address a series of challenges facing the mining and mineral sector. While presiding over the launch of the consultation dialogue of Earth Scientists Regulation Board Bill 2024, Minister Nyamtoro underscored the urgent need to regulate operations of the geoscientists. In 2022, Parliament enacted the Mining and Minerals Act to regulated activities, operations and transactions related to mining, exploitation and refining of mineral. Now, Parliament directed that a separate bill be drafted to provide for establishment of the Earth Scientists Registration Bill Board 2024 to provide for regulation and supervision of earth scientists. And the Earth Scientists Bill 2024 was drafted by the first Parliamentary Council. The establishment of the board is also intended to minimize activities and operations of unscrupulous persons purporting to be geoscientists, and it will be legal for anyone to practice as a geoscientist without a license. Now let's look at the Uganda Airlines. Uganda Airlines Chief Commercial Officer Adedayo Olawuyi has said since launching flights to Abuja, Lusaka and Harare in October last year, the airline has experienced rising passenger numbers. Now, the expansion brought the airline's total destinations to 16, strengthening its presence in the African aviation market. And with travel numbers edging closer to pre-pandemic levels and counting to rise ahead of the peak Easter travel season, Uganda Airlines is experiencing a surge in passenger demand. And on the new routes introduced last year, the Abuja route, initially launched as an extension of the Lagos service, is one of the airline's busiest. Flights to Lusaka and Harare have been well received, especially during the December holiday season, when travel demand spiked, and Uganda Airlines leased an additional aircraft to maintain smooth operations while conducting mandatory maintenance on its existing fleet. Uganda Airlines plans to expand network to include the London route and build new relationships. Moving on, the chairperson of the Uganda Cooperative Savings and Credit Union, Bintu Jalia, has said the regulations of savings and credit cooperative organizations, that is SACCOs, in Uganda has raised concern on contradictions within the legal framework. Now, these rise from the interaction between the Microfinance Deposit-Taking Institutions MDI Act of 2003 and Cooperative Societies Amendment Act of 2020. And this regulatory environment has created confusion about the key roles of key stakeholders, including the Bank of Uganda and the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. The 2020 amendment to the Cooperative Society Act granted SACCO directors powers akin to those of the BOU, allowing them to regulate and supervise SACCOs. Bintu Jalia, the chairperson of the Uganda Cooperative Savings and Credit Union, advocates for a more streamlined regulatory approach and the Bank of Uganda's role in overseeing SACCOs, particularly in licensing, regulating and supervising microfinance institutions, and has become even more vital under the recent amendments to the MDI Act. Now, in 2023, Ministry of Finance introduced the Microfinance Deposit-Taking Institution Amendment Bill of 2022 to clarify Bank of Uganda's role and reduce the influence of the Cooperative Societies Act in favor of the MDI Act. Now let's look at what the forex rates look like. And as of 18th March 2025, the US dollar was opening at 3,661.27, buying and selling at 3,671.27. And by midday, it was buying at 3,661.00 and selling at 3,671.00 and closed in at 3,660.73 and selling at 3,670.73. Now the pound was buying at 4,750.90 and selling at 4,763.87, and the euro bought at 3,994.22 and selling at 4,005.13, and the Kenyan shilling was buying at 28.28 and selling at 28.36, and the Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.39 and selling at 1.40, and the South African rand was buying at 202.24 and selling at 202.75. And that's it. Good Morning Uganda does continue. The agenda is coming up next, so stick around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, you can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Juko. Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a SACCO, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Njagala okwebaza olw'enteekateeka eno gavumenti gye yatondawo ey'okulaba nga omuntu wa wansi, omuntu omuwejjero wa ghetto afiibwako. Nti nga ghettos eriyo embeera eyaliwo nga si nnungi. Okugezesa ddala mu nteekateeka eno nga tennajja, abaana bangi baakwatibwanga, naye bukya enteekateeka eno ejja, bintu bingi bituukiddwako naddala mu nteekateeka z'ebyokwerinda, security, wamu n'enkulaakulana nga tuyita mu nkola gye bayita eya ghetto structure. Ghetto structure kwe kulonda obukulembeze okuviira ddala ku ghetto esookebwako ku kyalo, ne tubeera ne ba coordinators ku muluka paka eno gye tuli. Omwaka guno yatuwa ssente obukadde 100 wano emikono twabufuna. Era mu nfuna ya ssente zino twagala okwebaza Oweekitiibwa Pulezidenti. Ssente zino ziyambye nnyo abantu ba ghetto. Abantu ba ghetto nakubadde gavumenti ebadde n'emiwaatwa mingi gyeyisaamu ssente zaayo okutuuka ku bantu zibayambye, naye ssente ezo zibadde tezituuka ku bantu ba ghetto. Ssente zino bannaghetto tuzibawadde era bazifunyeemu. Ebiseera ebisinga wali emabega abantu ba ghetto abamu baali bennyamivu nga bamanyi nti gavumenti yabavaako, era ng'osanga abantu abamu mu ghetto nga tebalinaamu nsonga. Oli akugamba ekimbeeza mu ghetto noonyeza emirimu Uganda wonna gibuze. Twagala okusima pulezidenti w'eggwanga kubanga ssente ze yatuwa twazifuna, era gwe guno omulundi ogwasookera ddala nga bannaghetto mu Uganda. Era twagala okumwebaza okutwagalira ddala n'atuwa ne ku ssente ezikola. Ffenaffe twagala kumusuubiza nti abalaba gye bamulabira nti akadde ate kati ffe olw'okuba yaakatutandikako tulaba nga yaakavubuka, era twagala n'okumulaga amaanyi 26 oba ki ebyatuswaza edda mu mukono twagala okubimalawo mu 2026 tugatteko amaanyi tumwebaze olw'omutima ogwagala abantu ba bulijjo naddala ffe bannaghetto.
Yabona yero tunafuna kasente wano kugana osubula ekintu nga basobodde okukola naye nga tolina ka capital kate kamala naye kati kuba batandika otuwa kasente kati tulaba kati bino gitambula-tambulako bulungi. Obulamu bwange tebwali bulungi ku byenfuna kubanga emirimu tulina ebirimu byaffe gya mu mutwe naye ng'oluusi n'olumanyi olina osubula amati omwokolamu ekyo ebintu ebyo kaneze ng'emipiira ng'egyo tusala busi z'emmotoka naye kati nga muntu akuleetera polopera y'emmotoka nga tolina sente zigula matiriyo. Ne kati batuwa kasente n'ogula ebintu ne bibeerawo kasoma n'ajja n'omukolera ekintu n'agenda n'akusasula akasente. Obulamu bwange bwali tebwali bulungi kuba buli oba nga ebyenfuna si birungi tosobola kuba bulungi. Era ngwe nkubira abavubuka ba ghetto nti bannaaye tujumbire okola kuba buli oba okola gavumenti naye ekudduukire nekusanga w'okolera nekukolera akasente. Tweyanza nnyo pulezidenti Oweekitiibwa Pulezidenti tuterawo ghetto ya SACCO naffe otuddukire n'abantu b'ewansi tutongera mu kabizinensi kaffe naffe tusobole okwekulaakulanya.
Before I joined the Emyoga program, I was ignorant about income generating scheme. I was financially poor, but through Emyoga, when I was elected to become the secretary of the SACCO, I started gaining skills and knowledge on financial management. When we received the money, I borrowed 2,700,000. With that money, I was able to buy 2 cows. Some balance, I was able to improve on my citrus because it was affected so badly. Part of it, I put it on poultry because I knew that poultry is another place that I can invest money because poultry has a quick return. We sell it at any time. Before, the orange was really affected by the virus and I was not able to spray, but when I got the money, I focused on it, had to get labor to help me soften the trees, spray, remove the sick one and bury. So when I did that, there was improvement in the tree. It was no longer getting those diseases, but the first time I got the good yield, that made me get 2,600,000. That was between February and March, and I continued getting up to now. There's continuous harvest. If it was not through Emyoga, support to improve on it, I wouldn't have got that money. In my SACCO, I have 17 associations, and I have a total of 117 members. So being women entrepreneurs, we have created other activities that can earn us income, like drying eggplants and packaging. We have also managed to have cassava chips, that's a high quality. Packet can be milled and then also mixed with cowpea flour to make bagia that can be packed for children for school. We also have sodium bicarbonate, abalang. People have been just neglecting those things, but in the community, if you don't have, you cannot prepare a magira. We have also initiated that, putting it in the box, then also labeling or branding. It fetches us money, daily income. We have different products made from different associations, but all, when we meet, we advise one another and we visit one another to see how each association works. There are those who do piggery, some do poultry, some do the sales of clothes. Their lives have changed because before, some of them were not doing any business. But when this seed capital came, that's when they started thinking what to do. And when we meet, we always encourage. Being a woman, you need to have money. You need to have an activity that you do to fetch you what? Money. After me clearing the first loan, I got another loan. Still to put on more on poultry and also saving on other investments so that I get more money. But I found that I was improving. Life was becoming cheap. And from there, as I was getting from the orange sales, we wanted to construct a rental place for investing or to sustain our income generating activity. That's when we constructed the house, and we're still continuing, but we're left with a few areas to finish. And our stay in the family is very good. We no longer have conflicts. I'm peaceful with my husband. We plan together. Life has improved. We can get money at any time. Diet has improved. I passed through hardship, getting money where a month you would not handle 10,000, but now a week is too much. So I send my thanks to the President of Uganda for having thought of Emioga, an initiative for job creation and wealth. Indeed, in my SACCO, women have become beautiful, they have become knowledgeable, they have become exposed. Being the secretary of the SACCO, it has also given me an opportunity. I'm also secretary to our Muslim Council. I'm the only woman who is the secretary, and I'm with the men. So that makes me happy too.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Once again, we get to have conversations regarding SACCOs, which are savings and credit cooperative organizations that have become a vital tool in promoting financial inclusion, especially for individuals and small businesses that struggle to access traditional banking services. We'll be delving into a conversation regarding accelerating financial inclusion through SACCOs, and I will be speaking to Miss Nampero Harriet, who is the Senior Institutional Development Officer at the Microfinance Support Center. And also I'll be speaking to CPA Ivan Asimwe, who is the General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, Uganda Cooperative Alliance Limited. And together, let's get into this conversation. First of all, Mr. Asimwe, good morning and welcome. Happy New Year. Happy to see you. How have you been?
Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning, all our viewers. I'm really very happy to be here once again. I think from this year I haven't been here.
That's why I'm saying Happy New Year.
Yeah, and Happy New Year to everyone, because I think I've been missing in action.
Yes.
But now I'm back because I was doing other work. But now I'm back to discuss issues of cooperatives. And today it's a very good topic. When you talk about accelerating financial inclusion through SACCOs, this is my area. And I have been in this business for the last 22 years. Me, I'm the luckiest. I started as a cashier of a SACCO on the 15th of March 2003. And since then I've been in the cooperatives up to date. So I'm very happy with this topic. And I think it's really relevant to the current situation. Thank you.
It is relevant. Now, before we get into our conversation, I'd like to also welcome Miss Nampero Harriet. Good morning, and you're welcome to Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much. Good morning, dear viewers. We are so privileged to be speaking to you today. My name is Harriet Nampero, a staff of the Microfinance Support Center. I'm a Senior Institutional Development Officer. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Mr. Asimwe, before we get into accelerating financial inclusion through SACCOs, please give us a brief history of SACCOs in Uganda and how they have evolved over the years. Because for some people, SACCOs you see, like when you go to, let's say, your local market, you may see a banner saying a SACCO for women of Kalere Market, for example. But tell us the history, really.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good morning once again, members. Privileged to be here as usual. And I want to begin by appreciating UBC for always giving us the opportunity as cooperators to come here, learn, understand the issues to do with the cooperatives. A SACCO is a savings and credit cooperative organization. It's a type of cooperative that mainly focuses on savings and credit. You know, I'm trying to emphasize this because sometimes people ask that what's the difference between a SACCO and a cooperative. Ideally, a SACCO is a cooperative. It is a savings and credit cooperative organization, and it is a financial cooperative. So you asked me to explain just briefly on the history. And before I go to the history of SACCOs, since SACCOs are cooperatives, basically cooperatives started in 1761, 14th of March 1761 in Scotland, when the weavers were seated together, and they said, no, we can't work individually, we need to work together. And eventually they formed the first cooperative society, but of informal nature. And then 1844 in Rochdale, still the weavers, so you can see the weavers were the pioneers. And then they also, in 1844, Rochdale, they came up with the first cooperative of formal nature. With it, it was registered. That's why it is called a formal cooperative. Now, for the case of SACCOs, they started in Europe in the 1840s during the Industrial Revolution because industrialists needed money. And by then, it was very hard for them to access funds. Even for those who had money, saving the money was a problem. They were still, I think, saving like our rural people who keep money under their mattresses in the pots and others, but which is very risky. So in the 1840s, they invented the first cooperative, and mainly this was in Britain, Great Britain and Italy. So in Europe, they saw the role of SACCOs early enough. And then here in Africa, in 1955, Reverend Father John, who was from Ireland, had gone to Canada to study, and then he looked at the savings specifically for the retirees. People who had retired, they started the savings scheme. And he loved it. He said, this is a very good model. People needed to save. And then he came to Ghana. He was posted to Ghana as a priest, and then introduced this idea, and it was loved. And eventually, in Africa, we saw cooperatives or SACCOs starting. Then in Uganda here, in around 1970s, early 1970s, because of the economic crisis, people, especially within Kampala here, they sat together and started saving schemes because, you know, the Asians had been expelled and there was an economic crisis. So accessing where to save and even loans became a problem. And then they started forming SACCOs that later formed Ukusuku as a union in 1972. Then in early 1990s, Uganda Cooperative Alliance benchmarked the SACCO model. In fact, it was the village bank model in Asia. So they came, especially Bangladesh. They came back here, designed a good model, worked with UNDP and the government of Uganda, and then started village banks, not SACCOs, village banks. For me, the time I joined, it was called Rubabo Village Bank, Lyamujungu Village Bank, Chamuhunga Village Bank, Agaro Village Bank, Moyo Village Bank. They were called village banks. Okay. And eventually, these village banks transformed into savings and credit cooperative organization because the central bank could not allow us to use the name bank since we are not regulated.
By the central bank.
By the central bank.
Okay.
So that's why the name changed from village banks to SACCOs. That's why when you go to these old bigger SACCOs, you even find their signposts inside there. Like you go to Lyamujungu, it is there in their store. I saw it of recent. It's Lyamujungu Village Bank, but now it's changed to savings and credit. So that is the history. Now, all along, like the history I've given for Ghana, where the Reverend Father, the priest, took the idea, initiated it, and these SACCOs moved very fast. Even in Uganda here, when you look at most of these prominent SACCOs, they were spearheaded by the priests. Why? Because people believe in them. These are people of God. The priests, the sheikhs. So people believed in them. I will give you an example, like the SACCO where I was a general manager for 5 years, Ruchiga. It was headed by a priest. And I tell you, people believed in these people. Even up to now, they believe in them. So most of those successful SACCOs were led by these priests. And then eventually, when they became SACCOs, we want to appreciate the government of Uganda. It came in, supported the SACCO methodology, created the microfinance support center. Now we have a Myoga, we have a PDM. So really Ugandans need to join me to appreciate the government of Uganda and His Excellency specifically for spreading the gospel of savings and credit. This is a very good model for Uganda and even for Africa. I really want to appreciate Harriet and MSCL in general, because when you talk about accelerating financial inclusion, you know what it means. These people, personally, I know what they did to my SACCO when I was a general manager. I took over a SACCO that had a working capital of 500 shillings, nusu bitano. 500, not 500,000, just 500 shillings. So eventually, how did I move? We had to go to microfinance support center. They could not even give us money. I think they just said, okay, let's just throw it in the pit and see. So within like 6 months, we started with 10 million. Within 6 months, we paid back. They gave us more 50. We paid back. They gave us 100. We cleared. So that is how we are able to grow the SACCO. According to the study that was done in 2014, worldwide now, we have over 2.6 million SACCOs. So now I think 11 years later, we should be more than 3 million now. Now when you come to Kenya and you see the strengths of SACCOs in Kenya, you go to Tanzania, then you come back here, you see how SACCOs have grown. I don't know, are you aware that we have a SACCO now which is bigger than a commercial bank, Wazalendo? They had an AGM the other day. It's a very big SACCO in trillions of money. So when we are talking about financial inclusion using the SACCO methodology, we know what we mean. SACCOs have contributed a lot. Finscope itself has made a study. And it has made comparisons from 2018 to 2023, around there. It shows a growth in membership in SACCOs from 5% to 15%. So I think currently it has even gone up to almost 20%. And they go on further to explain that now, as we stand, financial inclusion is over 60%. So meaning that people are moving. We are accelerating this using the SACCOs. And the study goes on further to say that what has propelled this financial inclusion to move up is because of mobile money and the SACCOs. So this is a very good topic. And I want to call upon all Ugandans. Let's embrace the SACCO methodology. Let's all belong to SACCOs, because these are our institutions that we own, we form, we benefit from, and these are ours. These are our institutions. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ivan Asimwe. Now, you see why a conversation on SACCOs and also accelerating financial inclusion through SACCOs is quite pivotal for us today, especially during the current economic times when the government itself is finding some roadblocks in funding certain programs. Us individuals could come together in SACCOs to either save together or lend each other for the benefit of our businesses, and that's why this conversation today is very important to us. Now, Mr. Asimwe has gone to great lengths to help us understand why SACCOs are different, or how they are different from traditional financial institutions like banks, and how they became to be from the 18s to where we are now in the 20s. So join us for this conversation. If you're just catching us up, we are speaking accelerating financial inclusion through SACCOs, and I am speaking to CPA Ivan Asimwe, who is the General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance Limited. But also for you that have even deeper questions regarding the Microfinance Support Center, I'm sure you've seen it somewhere, and their wording cannot be missed when you pass by. I'll be speaking to Ms. Nampero Harriet, who is the Senior Institutional Development Officer at the Microfinance Support Center Limited. So if you have any questions, please send them through on WhatsApp number 0709 602 592. Now, Ms. Nampero, coming to you after that big introduction and a lesson in the history of SACCOs by Mr. Asimwe. When we go to the World Bank, according to the World Bank, it says that financial inclusion is key to reducing poverty and boosting shared prosperity. What specific mechanisms do SACCOs employ to extend financial services to Uganda to unbanked Ugandans? Or actually, let me rephrase, to unbanked and underbanked Ugandans?
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe before I delve into that, the Microfinance Support Center is a government-owned institution, and it is mandated to work with Ugandans through SACCOs and groups. We basically give them support to manage the institutions, to organize their records, to be good leaders, or to manage and to lead and to lobby for funds, to mobilize the members, and so we give them capacity building. However, after giving them and preparing them at their various stages, we also give them affordable financial services, and this is credit from government. Just like Mr. Asimwe has told us, we fetch a SACCO from down and then we work with it through the journey. And so this reduces the worry of how should I start a SACCO, how should I run a SACCO, what should I do? At least we have the backs of the cooperators. When you look at the SACCO model, this is a member-owned institution. it really leans on what members want to do, where they want to be. And so we come in to grow their capacity to achieve what they want to achieve. The SACCOs, unlike other financial institutions, are community-led. They are right down in the community. So you're not going to find a challenge where people are not accessing services because they are far from them. A SACCO can be anywhere, and that means a member of any community can belong to a SACCO. SACCOs have furthered access to financial services. Members pool their resources together in form of savings, share capital, and other fees that apply, and they start with their own funds to manage and make sure every member can access the financial services, let alone external funding and other support that comes along. SACCOs have gone ahead to do member education through financial literacy sessions, which are also supported by stakeholders such as the Microfinance Support Center, the commercial officers, and others. SACCOs have passed member education to members. The truth is, Ugandans are working a lot. They get the money, but sometimes they don't know what to do. Saving in itself is a very big challenge, and until members are sensitized on how to save, when to save, and the benefits of saving, that they start appreciating this. SACCOs have also made sure that there is affordable credit to the members, because some of the members, especially the Ugandan population, are limited in terms of the requirements that other institutions may be offering credit at. For example, the limitations to do with collateral security, limitations to do with registration, and other things. Now, because this is a member-owned institution, members come together, they form the policies that govern them according to what they can afford. So if they agree that they are going to give collateral-free loans, that is going to be it, because most of them do not afford what other institutions may offer. But also, we've seen SACCOs evolving and going beyond financial services. Right now, as we talk, we have the Emyoga SACCOs that we are supporting as the Microfinance Support Center, on top of all the other SACCOs that we are supporting. Trust me, we've seen so many projects as a result of coming together, which we are going to call cooperation. Leaning on the principle of economic member participation, we've seen SACCOs evolve beyond financial services. Most of them have projects. Most of them are now running maize mills. You've seen products that are packaged and they are being exported. Actually, we are coming in to see how to further push this agenda to make sure that they get the certification, to make sure they meet the requirements, and probably tap from the external markets, let alone getting tenders from government. Because if it is a SACCO that can supply, for example, a carpentry SACCO can supply furniture to a government school, what's wrong with that? Because when they do this, one, they are availing market to the local producers, or for example, grain, talk about timber, talk about everything. They are also availing market to these people and to the SACCO enterprises, but also creation of jobs. Actually, when you look at some of the challenges that the SACCOs aim at is reduction of poverty and fostering economic growth. Most SACCOs, like Mr. Simwe has been telling us about, Wazalendo SACCO. That is one of the SACCOs that has worked with MSC over the years. Now, when you look at this SACCO and the people that it's employing, I'm talking about the SACCO part alone, and that is the primary employment. But then we have those that are getting employment as a result of the growth of the SACCO, and that is secondary employment. So these SACCOs are really doing a great job. And as Ugandans, if we put all our efforts on growing the capacities of SACCOs, and all members embrace this model, for example, joining the SACCOs, when you look at the Myoga program, it has availed so many categories. At least every Ugandan has where to benefit from a SACCO. All programs are coming through SACCOs because it is the only way government can reach out to so many people. It has the power of members. I think it has the potential to change the economy of this country. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. That is Miss Nampero Harriet coming in from the Microfinance Support Center Limited. She's the Senior Institutional Development Center over there. Now, we are speaking matters accelerating financial inclusion through SACCOs. SACCOs are savings and credit cooperative organizations. And Mr. Asimwe here is very passionate about anything and everything to do with cooperatives. We normally have conversations of this nature with him. So if you have questions to Ms. Nampero from the Microfinance Support Center Limited, or to Mr. Asimwe Ivan from the Uganda Cooperative Alliance Limited, send them through. WhatsApp number is 0709-602-592. Ms. Nampero, I'm still with you. You have made reference to some government initiatives through SACCOs like EMIOGA, like Parish Development Model. Many SACCOs receive funding from government programs such as the ones that we have mentioned, EMIOGA, Parish Development Model, Youth Livelihood Program, to mention but a few. How do these initiatives function, and what mechanisms are in place to ensure funds are effectively used?
Okay. Thank you so much. But first of all, as the Microfinance Support Center, we give support to SACCOs at all different levels.
Yes.
And the support we give ranges from financial services to technical assistance. Now, what happens is that these SACCOs have to be, first of all, registered. So it starts with mobilization of members who define their agenda or the reason for forming the SACCO. Once these are formed, a membership of 30 members minimum, we get them registered at the office of the Register of Cooperatives with support from the commercial officers. Now, these come to sit their first general meeting, where they come to elect an interim committee that supports them through their first annual general meeting. We come in at this stage to support them understand how SACCOs are supposed to operate, to make members appreciate and own the SACCOs, because it is through this ownership that they are going to be involved and participate economically. As we said, running a SACCO involves, first of all, contributing, or involves our members' economic participation. That means a member is going to pay a certain fee that is prescribed by the SACCO to become a member. We call this a membership fee. However, since SACCO is saving and credit, a member is also mandated to save with the SACCO, because a SACCO begins primarily with its own resources. So we are going to teach members about saving, and they have to save this after appreciating the cause or the reason why they are saving. We also sensitize them to buy shares, because unlike other institutions such as groups, SACCOs lean a lot on share capital. So after that, we encourage the members to start lending the little money that they have, and we encourage them to also pay back, because borrowing is one thing, but again, paying back is another thing. And if you borrow the funds and you don't pay back, definitely the SACCO is going to collapse. Now, since this is an initiative that is owned by the members, governed by the members, all the leaders come from the members themselves. There is no one who comes from outside and imposes a leader on the SACCO members. Actually, this is done at the annual general meeting, a meeting for all members, and so we encourage all members to also take on the responsibility to attend these meetings, because these are key meetings and they determine how the SACCO is going to run for the next 1 year until the next annual general meeting. So from there, the SACCOs decide on the projects that they are going to do, apart from financial services, because they have the right to choose what to do or to stick to financial services. And then they go and educate their members, and the members start consuming the services. SACCOs, when you look at their mode of operation, they are institutions that when they are supported very well, actually like what we've been doing with the Microfinance Support Center, we right now have so many employee-based SACCOs. We have so many SACCOs that are based in the communities that are defined by location. For example, market vendors, SACCOs. We also have those cooperatives that are not doing financial services, because we can't fail to talk about them now that we have Mr. Asimwe here, and they will be coming through. Actually, one time we were here and they were saying we are putting emphasis on SACCOs about the other cooperatives. I think, Mr. Asimwe, we should get time and we also talk about that.
True.
But when we grow the capacity of SACCOs, because people are faced by several challenges, these include limited infrastructure. When you look at financial services in the communities, they do not have access to ATMs. Even when you tell people to open accounts with the banks, in most cases they can't access. Look at someone coming from very far and they have to go to put in transport to go to an ATM to withdraw money, let alone the safety of the money as they go on their way when they're in transit. This increases the cost of financial services, and so operating within the community is far, far cheaper for the members. It makes it easier for them to save and to consume these services.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Nampero. Now, Mr. Ivan, coming back to you. The Uganda Cooperative Alliance has been instrumental in supporting SACCOs and also the cooperatives. How does the cooperative movement ensure that SACCOs remain member-driven while maintaining financial sustainability?
Oh, thank you so much, moderator. Like I've mentioned, really, Uganda Cooperative Alliance initiated this model of village banks that later transformed into SACCOs, for people who may not know. And since then, we see SACCOs grow very fast. Like I was talking of Wazalendo, how the idea came through UCA. When Uganda Cooperative Alliance invited the High Command, by then it was General Ronda, General Kale, they invited them at Uganda Cooperative Alliance. And they couldn't believe that this thing can work. You know, sometimes it's hard for Africans to believe before they have seen something work. They are not really early adopters. They wait for others to see, is this thing really working?
We are doubting Thomases.
Yeah, very good. So they invited them and they said, this thing can't work. But eventually, when Uganda Cooperative Alliance supported them to go and see in America how the SACCO for the army, you know, it is the largest.
Yes.
And then other African countries, when they came back, they really believed that this idea works. And to date, they are in billions of money. So for me, the time when I joined the SACCOs in 2003, 15th of March, Saturday, 8 a.m. I was in office.
Wow.
I remember everything.
Okay.
Now, after like a month, I meet my OB. And the man asks me, where are you working? I'm in a SACCO. A SACCO? What is a SACCO? Then the man goes on to ask, Ivan, I thought you were a brilliant man. Did you really pass your exams? So someone could not believe.
Instead of working in a bank.
Yes, because for them they believed that a graduate, a bright man would be in a URA, in NSSF, in a bank, such things. So they couldn't believe that a SACCO is it was just like a dream. People couldn't believe that a SACCO is something. But I'm very happy that to date SACCOs are employing masters, certified accountants. They are there because the model has been adopted and people believe now that is the SACCO methodology that is here to work. But before, it was terrible.
Even universities are including SACCOs,
very good.
cooperative,
Yes, very
cooperative education.
Very soon, very soon we are going to have an MOU with Makerere University and Moshi University, and we start teaching bachelors, masters, and PhDs in the cooperative.
We did have
that is where we are heading, because we didn't have it.
Professor from MUBS last week.
Professor Mindra was here.
Exactly.
We are working together to ensure, because why? Personally, I've gone to Moshi University to study cooperatives. I'm not talking out of, no, I understand cooperatives. So, and we now need to make sure that many Ugandans really understand cooperatives. So that's why we are focusing on that. So SACCOs are really contributing a lot. And as Uganda Cooperative Alliance, we try to ensure that these SACCOs work within the parameters of cooperative principles and values. Though some people would want to deviate them. You know, some people are forming companies, but because they are avoiding some nitty-gritties, they now want them to look like SACCOs when actually they are not SACCOs. But for us as Uganda Cooperative Alliance, we continue to educate the masses. We continue to empower the members, because member empowerment is very critical. For members to understand their roles and obligations, training of the leadership and management is very critical. Like you have rightly mentioned, many people are in the cooperatives, but many people don't understand the cooperatives. From university, Bachelor of Commerce, BBA, you go to a SACCO. You're a general manager. Fine. But do you understand SACCOs? Can you define a SACCO? Do you know the principles and the values of these SACCOs? Because a SACCO is a cooperative which is member-owned, member-used, member-controlled, and benefiting members based on 7 international cooperative principles: voluntary and open membership, democratic member control, member economic participation, voluntary. There is member education, training, and information. Then there is cooperation among cooperatives. There is community concern, and autonomy and independence. Those are 7 principles. You cannot change them. So do we understand them? Yes, we may understand them, but do we put them into practice? Because a SACCO, like you have mentioned, is far different from the other formal financial institutions.
Yes.
They know they must work for the people. Where people come, save their money, they access credit. That's why it is called the savings and credit. People first save, then access credit. I want to now, from the practical point of view, I want to tell you, moderator and Harriet, people have money down there.
True.
People have money. Don't take it that people are poor. People have money. Ask me. I worked in Kabale district. I also worked in Rukunjiri, in a SACCO. Practically from cashiering up to general manager. But once you go to the population and educate people, people have money. I will tell you one scenario. It was in the evening, an old man comes with a black coat, kabuti, they call it kabuti, long like this, in a short. The man says, I want to talk to the manager. I said, okay, fine. So the security guard outside saw this is a mad man. He said, you go, they have already closed. They said, no, allow him to enter. So the man says, I have my Kalito money. Can I bring it and put it here? I said, it's okay. The man goes back home. Tomorrow, the man comes with the money in a sack, carried by a grandson.
Kalito money.
You could imagine that this is cassava. You know, a sack, just. So, had I known that this man had 80 million.
Whoa.
80 million, an old man. And I interviewed him. Where do you keep this money? The man says, I dug somewhere below under my bed, and I usually put it down. But the challenge I have is with these, my grandchildren. They usually see me, or sometimes they steal a key from me, and I find my bag is tampered with. But he even doesn't know how much money was there.
So he brought you 80
we
million,
started
but he
counting
probably
money.
had
We
lost
counted
way more.
money for like 4 hours. You know, that money which has been bundled together for years in a sack. To the extent that we even found money for the government of Obote and Amin.
Wow.
Together with this government. All of those currencies, for him, he knew all of this is money. He
So
had
what
not.
happened to the
He had
currency?
not even known
What had
that
happened
the
to
currency had changed.
I was asking about
You
that.
see?
What happened to the currencies that
So
had
what
changed?
that is an implication that we need to educate the masses. People have money there. They are not even aware that the currency changed. Someone will bring the money for Obote's regime.
They don't
and
know that they
he knows
could
this
be
is
aware
money.
that the currency changed,
No.
but they don't know that if you're holding on to the old one, it's ineffective.
Because
after
this is
a
a man
certain
who has
time.
been selling his coffee, selling cows, selling milk, and whenever he sells, puts it there.
Well, thank you
and
so
doesn't
much.
follow.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
the only
Asimwe.
why SACCOs are important
Yes.
is because they have addressed this challenge where even the rural person can now have access to go and save money in a SACCO. Because what was happening was that most of the people, one, they feared entering banks. These are commercial banks. They have glasses, they have light, so people would fear there. Secondly, issues of transport, like Harriet has mentioned. You are moving 30 kilometers to go to the bank to bank 10,000 shillings. Now, this 10,000 shillings is a bit hard for you to move to use transport of 7,000 to go and bank 10,000. But now these SACCOs are closer to the people.
Thank you, Mr. Asimwe. I have some comments from our viewers, and the first one says, good morning, UBC. I was inquiring from the Uganda Cooperative Alliance General Secretary. I am a member of a fully registered cooperative association, not a SACCO, but I need guidance on how to move it forward because it was started by people of advanced age who have neglected it. This is from Okoit Robert. He wants your contact.
My contact?
Yes.
Oh, my contact is 0782 492 592. 0782 492 592. Ivan Asimwe. It's a very good question. Harriet had touched it. How do we formalize? As long as it is an association, it is a group of people, you can, and you are 30 people plus, you come to Uganda Cooperative Alliance or to the Ministry of Trade or to commercial officers in the district, you get bylaws. They are model bylaws for SACCOs. You have a meeting as members of this group, make sure you mobilize them, they have their meeting, they pass their resolution to transform into a savings and credit organization. They fill the bylaws, their questions, the per value of a share, the address, the name of the proposed SACCO, and other information. They fill in the bylaws, and then they go to the commercial officer. The commercial officer, one, does the training because they need a training report. He does some auditing because they need a statement of affairs. Just a cash flow, what you have received in terms of money, what you have spent, and the balance of money that you have. So that we look at viability, and then the commercial officer will get all of that information and then put a recommendation. I do hereby recommend them for registration. I know them, ABCD. And then you get a whole pack with 50,000 shillings, come to the Register of Cooperatives at Farmer's House, and you have your certificate ready. And that is, they begin with a probationary certificate. Then after that, within 2 years period, if they are worth giving a permanent certificate, the registrar will go on and give them a permanent certificate, and then that is how you operate a SACCO. You mobilize your people, they start savings, mobilize resources. If you don't have the money, maybe in a case the demand exceeds the supply, go to Microfinance Support Center. She has mentioned, they will nurture you, give you the capital, and then you move on, you grow the SACCO.
Well, thank you, Mr. Simwe. Ms. Nampero Harriet, what are your parting remarks to Ugandans that probably would like to get some money from Microfinance Support Center and how they go about it in a minute?
Okay, thank you so much. Just in a minute, I wish to also communicate to Ugandans some of the ways that we were planning or trying to put in place to lift the SACCOs. One of them is embracing digital services, and this is going to narrow the gap between the distance or to increase access, because we said that access remains a challenge, but we also encourage them to embrace agent services such as agent banking. This is going to reduce the risk of moving with cash, but also, like I said earlier, we have member education programs, we have trainings of all kinds. We encourage them to reach out to all offices of the Microfinance Support Center. We have credit, we have grants, like for example the Myoga grant that we are currently giving to Ugandans. We are implementing the fund. We support the SACCOs to boost their projects, but also SACCOs are a model that is lifting the previously excluded categories, such as the women the youth and the persons with disabilities. I want to encourage these specific categories not to remain behind. Go and join the SACCOs, and you also have a right to participate in the leadership of the SACCO. My message to Ugandans is to embrace the SACCO model. Join any SACCO that you feel comfortable with, or that you subscribe to their mission and vision. You can be also the leader, or you can take lead in starting a SACCO. You can come and we give you more guidance in addition to what we've discussed here. We are here as the Microfinance Support Center to support you through this journey, right from inception up to when we feel the SACCO can now stand and sustain. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Nampero. Now we've been handling or delving into matters accelerating financial inclusion through SACCOs, or as known as savings and credit cooperative organizations. And I have been having this conversation with Ms. Nampero Harriet, the Senior Institutional Development Officer at the Microfinance Support Center Limited. I've also been speaking to CPA Ivan Asimwe, who is the General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance Limited. Now, Ivan did share his number for those that may have further questions to the Alliance, and it is 0782 492592, 782 492592. Ivan Asimwe for further questions and inquiries that you might have. Now, we will take a short break. Ruben Puma is coming up next with sports updates. Thank you, Ivan, and thank you, Harriet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Stick around.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a SACCO, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Tunafuna kasente wano kugana osubula ekintu nga wasobodde okukola naye nga tolina ka capital kate kamala naye kati kuba watandika otuwa kasente